It's too early for this, but let's do this. Hey everyone, Josh Palmer here, and I'm back. It's early in the morning. I'm really tired. It is a couple hours later than I meant for it to be. It's like 9 in the morning, I know, but my work schedule is different than most people's. Anyway, I am back on YouTube, and I'm doing the 24-hour movie marathon. It was recommended to me by my friend Huss. He did it recently on A Touch of Film. You should check that out. He did a 24-hour Asian movie marathon, so I figured I'd do the same thing. And most people know me for my Korean cinema knowledge, so I figured, why not do a Japanese one? Anyway, it's been a long time since I've been on YouTube. I am back. It's going to be regular videos now. So if there's a rocky start or whatever, I'm sure I'll get more comfortable as this video goes along. And this is going on, my movies add up to about 18 and a half hours, I believe. So anyway, without further ado, let's get this marathon started. I'm going to be talking about the movies as they go along. I'll explain what the requirements were for the marathon, and we will get this party started. Okay, so the very first one on this 24-hour marathon is to pick a film with a number in the title, so I went with this one. 100 Yen Love. It is a boxing film, and it stars Sakura Ando. She is probably best known for her small yet important role in Sion Sono's Love Exposure. I wouldn't really say it's a small role, it's a supporting role, but that's what put her on the map, and she's become one of the most respected and loved indie actresses in Japan. And I think she's brilliant, and I just love seeing everything she's in. This is one of her first lead roles, and one of two in which she got a lot of festival play from that year. This one and .5mm. Anyway, yeah, this is a boxing film, and we're about to give this another go. One of my absolute favorite movies from the year it came out, and I can't wait to check it out once again. Okay, so I just finished my first film for the day. That was 100 Yen Love. Such a good film. I saw it back maybe a year or so ago. It was one that I had been reading on. I had heard a lot about it. I had heard some really great things. I really like Sakura Ando, so just knowing that she had a lead role had me interested like right off the bat. So I think when I originally saw it, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 on the site that I write reviews for, and I think I'm going to stand by that. It was just as good this time around. It's got some humor in it. It's darker humor. It's not really super funny throughout. There's some awkward moments that come across funny. It's weird because it's a film that's like feel good and feel bad at the same time. But it's got some great technical aspects. The menu's looping in the background. I keep looking over at it, but yeah, it's really Sakura's performance that truly elevates the film into something great. It's a good film overall, but just her performance and the way her character is written and the way she acts it out, and her physical performance as she becomes a boxer later on in the film, just seeing what she starts off as and what she ends up being is something that I absolutely love, and it's really motivational. In fact, when I saw this film, which was about a year ago now that I think about it, it was so inspiring just to see her attitude and where it gets her, without spoiling anything. I mean, most boxing movies sort of have this revelation. It just inspired me as a bigger person myself. I mean, she's a lot smaller than I am, but I actually started working out because of this movie, and I dropped 50 pounds roughly, and I have since stopped a few months ago. I don't want to get too personal, but just to say that it affects me on like a personal level, and seeing this again has me so motivated to want to start working out again that I think that's what I'm going to do. It's just a lifestyle I got to get back to. But anyway, I digress. I don't want to get too personal and off the beaten path, but it's an awesome movie. There's some great moments. There's some weird side characters that you'll love. It's got some satisfactory moments. It's got some upsetting moments, some heartbreaking moments. It's just that perfect blend of like everything that Asian cinema does so well, especially Japanese cinema. But yeah, I highly, highly recommend this movie, and what a great way to start off this marathon. Yeah, so that's 100 Yen Love, highest recommendation, and I will be moving on to my second film here in the next 5 or 10 minutes, and that will be a film that starts with the first letter of your first name. My name's Josh, obviously, so I went with Josie, the Tiger and the Fish. So I just finished watching Josie, the Tiger and the Fish. I had seen it once before, but not all the way through. And this time, I knew I wanted to add it to my marathon list, so I got through it. Again, I think it's good. I don't think it's amazing. Some of the character actions and choices that they make don't make any sense to me. But yeah, anyway, for those unfamiliar, Josie, the Tiger and the Fish is about a man who works at like a small gambling casino sort of thing, and he hears about this woman who is, well, I think they say that it's a person that's in like this big baby carriage that this old homeless woman pushes around. Well, long story short, he encounters this woman as she rolls down a hill in the carriage by herself and kind of crashes into the side of a fence or a building, something like that. Anyway, he uncovers it to see that it's a woman that he's sort of immediately attracted to, and throughout the film he is sort of infatuated with this woman and continues to visit her, and the two form a relationship slowly but surely. And it's sort of a weird movie. It's filled with weird characters. It mixes, again, that sort of surrealism and reality, like realism. It's good. I don't want to get too much into the plot because I think that sort of spoils the whole journey of the movie, but it's not very story driven, but it's more about the character and the emotional journey that they go through. There's some nudity and sex that I know it's trying to go for just a natural, it's how it is sort of thing, but for some weird reason it sort of doesn't really fit the tone. I do get what they were going for, I just don't think it really works with the overall feel of this movie. So yeah, I don't want to dwell on this one too much because time is ticking and I want to get to the next film. But I think I'd recommend it overall. Not amazing, but definitely worth checking out. Sorry for the million cuts here, but I was outside trying to record, which I don't know why I did that. And all the neighbors and stuff kept going by and blabbing and whatnot, which is understandable. But anyway, as I was saying, Josie, the Tiger and the Fish. Good film, not the best. I do recommend it though. And moving on to the next film is do a film that starts with the first letter of your last name. And for those of you who don't know, my last name is Parmer. So I am going with the 1964, I want to say. Don't hold me to that though. Classic Japanese film. Very underrated and not very talked about, but still an absolute masterpiece in my opinion. And that is Masahiro Shinoda's Pale Flower. One of my absolute favorite films of all time. Easily in my top 20, maybe even my top 10. The more I watch it, the more I appreciate it. But anyway, yeah, so Pale Flower. Let's do this. Sprinkle. Hey, you ready for more films? No? Fine then. So I just finished up Pale Flower, and it is easily one of my favorite films ever. I know earlier I said top 20, and then I changed it to top 10. The last few months, I've seen this movie twice in the last few months, and I started to think, out of all the ones that I've seen and the ones that I love, that there's just something about it that kind of elevates it above the other movies. I don't know exactly what it is, but I just absolutely adore this film. I think it's safe to say this is in my top 5 easily. Hanabi is my favorite film of all time. This is right up there with that. Other films include Oasis, the I Chang-dong film, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, the Park Chan-wook film, and Old Boy. But I think this might be right up there, right underneath Hanabi, honestly. It's dark, it's witty, it's cool, I don't know, it's practically a perfect film. I originally had given it a 4.5 when I had, I don't even think, I never reviewed this one, but when I was debating on reviewing it, I'm actually told somebody I'd write a review for them. This is definitely a 5 for me. I don't think it could be much better than it is. There's a couple of technical aspects from the time, like there's a scene where the two leads are driving a car. Some of that shows its age, but other than that, the cinematography is like really ahead of its time. There's so many close-ups. The acting is fantastic. The lead guy who plays Meraki, he wasn't a very well-respected or known actor, really. He did a few films, and then his career fell apart, from what I understand. And then Yasujiro Ozu had put him in Early Summer. I think that's what the film's called. I've actually never seen it. But Ozu approached him and said that he was just an absolutely fantastic actor, and he wanted him to be in that film. And in fact, when Shinoda contacted the actor to be in this movie, the guy had doubted it, didn't think he could be a lead, and he threw up the Ozu credit that he had under his belt, and he said, anybody that wants, anybody that is, not was, in an Ozu film, and that Ozu wants himself, is worthy of being a leading actor, or something to that effect. So anyway, yeah, this movie is great. I will share some of the plot. I think it's a movie that people should go into blind, as it's pretty much perfect. Anyway, Meraki is a man who had been in jail for murder. He gets out. I think he serves, I don't know, 3 years. Maybe that's way too few. I don't remember the exact number. But he gets out and he goes back to the city, which he said has changed in the years that he's been in there. You know, there's more buildings now than there ever was. People are closer and closer and closer physically to each other, practically trampling over one another in the streets. But they're, you know, as disconnected as ever before, which is really relevant to today's society, even here in the U.S., actually. It's like the more people we get on this earth, and the closer that we become to each other, as in, like, you know, overpopulating, seems to be the further and further we get apart as a species. And I don't know, maybe the movie's not intended to be deep, but I get so many messages and symbolism from this movie. But anyway, yeah, so he gets out of jail, and he's getting back into things, and he goes to the old gambling den he used to be in, and there is a woman there, which is really unusual, because there weren't really any women gambling at the time. And once again, I keep staring at the menu. But yeah, so she's winning lots of money. All the men are losing out to her. He's really allured by this woman, so they team up, and the film follows them and their journey and their relationship together. It's not really romantic. There is romance there, albeit very subtle. It's more intrigue and infatuation with one another, and their lifestyles. As Meraki carries on through the film, there is a nice character arc. It's subtle, but essentially he's very human at his heart and his core, but he's a killer by nature, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, that's his job and that's what he does, even though has tried to get out of it. And the woman that he's with, I can't remember her character's name, but she is essentially, and she has a great arc as well, she is absorbed into this gangster, Yakuza lifestyle. Not the actual violent part itself. This focuses on gambling, and then she wants to explore further, bigger gambles and bigger money, and driving her car really fast, which leads to that scene I was talking about earlier. And she becomes she gets like a thrill out of things she shouldn't be doing. And as the film goes on, it progresses more and more and worse in the things that she wants to do and partake in. I don't want to spoil it, but it crescendos into something dark, and that particular scene towards the very end is perfect. There's some awesome music, and the acting is so spot on. It gives me chills every time I see it, and it may be my favorite film scene of all time. Pale Flower is one I highly recommend. I can practically find no faults with it, and it's one that nobody talks about, and that is a shame. So yeah, earlier I just wanted to show that this is the Japanese Blu-ray for Josie the Tiger and the Fish. I have the Criterion edition. Yeah, it has a Criterion, and literally no one talks about this film. I believe I was right, 1964. Directed by Masahiro Shinoda, and it's just an absolutely fantastic edition. Anyway, here's the inside of the case. Not really going to be going into detail, but it is just an awesome edition, and I can't recommend. Okay, up next we have a film that's over 3 hours long, and this is actually 4 hours long. It's Shunji Iwai's A Bride for Rip Van Winkle, the full 4-hour edition. This is not the director's cut. The director's cut is 3 hours, but this is the one that I own. Yeah, I don't really know much about this film other than the trailer, and that it stars Coco, who is a pop singer, well, just a singer in general in Japan, and she is in Shinya Tsukamoto's Kotoko, which is another one of my favorite films. And so yeah, taking a lunch break real quick, heading out for a bite to eat. Then we're going to start this journey. See you then. Okay, I'm currently heading out to get some lunch, taking a break from the 24-hour movie marathon. It's been a blast so far, to be honest. I thought it might be, I don't know how to explain it. I love movies, obviously. It's my favorite thing in life, except for my fiance, in case she's watching this. Not sure if I'm going to be able to keep this angle going, but yeah, so I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. I woke up with a headache, so that kind of sucks, but yeah, we'll see how I get as the day goes on. It's been great so far. Then again, I've picked out films that I really like, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. Yeah, starting A Bride for Rip Van Winkle, which is a movie I wanted to see for my top 10 list of 2016, which I've still not done because I have a few more movies from 2016 that I think potentially might be candidates for top 10 spots. So anyway, yeah, I'm really excited to see it. Bride for Rip Van Winkle, Shunji Iwai's newest film. Wind's probably about to get bad, so I'm going to speak awkwardly loud. It's probably going to be going to the camera. But anywho, yeah, I'm excited. I don't know if I'm going to make it through this whole 24 hours or not, but I will sure try my hardest. Yeah, Pale Flower. Good ass movie. Well, that's great. See you guys. See you when I park. Okay, so, change of plans. I had something personal come up yesterday that needed to be taken care of. But don't worry about it. It's nothing, like, too crazy. It's actually already been solved. Everything's actually good now. But, unfortunately, due to that, I didn't make it through the 24-hour movie marathon. And that's fine. I sort of just planned this unexpectedly, so... but anyway, I'm back at it. It's the next day. It's already early in the afternoon. I slept in. I was like, you know what, I'll just get up and I'll get back to it when I can. And that is now. Yeah, my hair's messy and stuff. I haven't even fixed myself up yet. But anyway, hopefully this music's not going to give me a copyright strike. I didn't think of that. Anyway, it is on the menu for R100, which is my film considered a flop. Now, I'm pretty sure this film did really well in Japan, where it comes from. But here in the States, it was released under Draft House Films, a distribution company. And critically, it did awful. Just constantly 1 star, 1 star, 1 star, 2 stars, 1 star, 1 star, out of like 5 stars. I absolutely love this film. I'm a big fan of the director, Hitoshi Matsumoto. He's a great comedian, TV personality, and director from Japan. And I've seen a ton of his shows that he does and is a part of. I think he's hilarious. I actually went into this not knowing what to expect because I've heard so many bad things. Let's just say I walked away so impressed and laughing so hard. I gave it 5 stars. I did write a review for it, and not only do I consider it an amazing film, it was my favorite film of 2015, I think. That's when it came out over here. It's an absolutely fantastic film. I've since seen it, I think, twice since then. So, naturally, I just wanted to include it. It hasn't even sold well over here, so I would consider that a flop. Some people have included, like, Branded to Kill. That's the one I keep getting told. Because I asked, what's some Japanese films that have flopped? But anyway, I am only doing films that I own, so R100 it is. Here we go, and I'll see you afterwards. Alright, so just finished up R100, and that movie is still amazing. It's completely batshit crazy. Essentially, it's about a man who he is met up by this woman at the beginning of the movie. You don't really know what's going on. She's getting ready in a bathroom, getting on some makeup and stuff, and she walks out into the restaurant, and he tells her about Beethoven's I forgot what the song is. It's essential to the whole movie. But anyway, he tells her about that song, and she ends up just kicking him and knocking the coffee out of his hand. And he ends up in this building, and there's a sign on the door. It's this kind of secret place, a secret club, and on the door it just says, in English, it says bondage, and the company's emblem is just a big cursive B. Anyway, he meets this guy and kind of subscribes to their company, and over the course of the next several days, every day from then on, and it might be for 100 days, I can't remember for some weird reason, but a dominatrix will show up and dominate him, which he's really into. That's what turns him on. And so over the course of the movie, these dominatrixes just show up and they keep dominating him, and as it goes on, it starts interfering with his personal life. They show up at his work, at his house at some point, and I don't really want to spoil, but things just get really crazy and really out of hand. So yeah, I don't understand why this movie is a flop. I understand it's more of a niche film. It's not going to appeal to so many people. Sorry, I got something in my eye and I'm not sure what it is. Anyway, yeah, the humor is super dry. It's super weird. The film starts off incredibly slow. Actually, the first time I watched it was with a friend that I used to live with, And the first, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, we both kept looking at each other like, is this thing gonna actually, like, pick up at all, or what? And I don't mind slow films. A lot of my favorite filmmakers are known for their slowness, like Chiming Lang or whatever. But this is a comedy, so you expect it to kind of be funny and have some quicker pace to it. But its slowness is perfect, showing off the mundane life of our leading man, who is played by Nao Omori, who is the guy who played Ichi in Takashi Miike's Ichi the Killer. This is the Blu-ray right here, released by Draft House. But yeah, these dominatrixes mess with Nao throughout the whole movie, and it's pretty awesome. But anyway, I don't want to spoil it. I love the movie. I really still think it's a borderline masterpiece. I noticed this time, which is weird that I didn't notice it before, I noticed some CG that was a little more obvious to me this time around for some reason, but it's forgiving, it's creative, it goes with the style of the film, and I love the film's aesthetic. A lot of people said that it was laziness and it just looked dull and boring. That's the point. The film's so saturated without its unsaturated. I don't know the word I'm looking for. Desaturated, maybe. Whatever. It has almost no color. It's almost black and white. That's how much the color's been sucked out of the film. I was just observing different things and the color. Like there's a shot where he's walking out of the hospital where his wife's at, who's in a coma. But he's walking down the hall towards the camera, and there's a fire extinguisher on the ground in the corner, and it's brown practically because that's how much color's been sucked out of the screen. But there's a lot of awesome creative shots. There's some cool lighting effects. One of my favorite gags and scenes in general, he's at the mattress store which he works at, and there's a guy that walks up who has to tell him about the company, and I don't want to spoil it, but he's laying on the bed and he's like, join me, and he takes off his shoes and he's laying there, then he just like rolls and falls in between two of the mattresses. And then the guy walks up and he's like, are you okay? And then he pulls him down to him, and just the way it's shot and framed is hilarious. But yeah, I need to get this going more, so I could talk about R100 forever, but you need to scope it out. Give it a chance, even if you hate it. I kind of understand. But for those with just the right twisted sense of humor, and the movie does get really twisted and takes some of the jokes too far, it's most certainly a film that will appeal to your sick ass. So anyway, that was R100, and I'm moving on to my next film, which is a classic you've never seen, and I actually posted about this on my Facebook recently. Nagisa Oshima's Cruel Story of Youth from 1960. I have not seen this one before, but I'm looking forward to it. I actually tried starting it up the other day, and as usual, it didn't work. So, yeah, Cruel Story of Youth. Get this started. I just finished up Cruel Story of Youth. It's really good. It's seems way ahead of its time, but I haven't seen much 60s Japanese cinema, but it kind of reminded me in some regards to Pale Flower. Just that story of youth. I mean, the main guy in Pale Flower is not young by any means, but yeah, it's just a really good example of like blistering youth. But anyway, yeah, it's got some cool like shaky cam. It's not trying to be all stylistic about it, but it's definitely got style. The color's awesome. The framing's amazing. The acting's awesome. The movie's just about this couple that kind of meets by chance, and she thinks he's like a goody two-shoe guy, but he's actually kind of a piece of crap. And she slowly over the film starts to change, and for better or worse, they stick out together. And things spiral out of control. He gets mixed up with like the Yakuza. He doesn't join, but he wants to fist fight everybody, and it just gets really dark and takes more and more dark directions and turns as the film goes on, and touches on a lot of really uncomfortable subjects, and I really respect the movie for that. But yeah, I really liked it. I don't have a ton to say about it because I need to keep going with this, but yeah, I highly recommend it. So it's really underrated, so I would check it out if you get a chance. Cool story of you. And then next, I'm doing an animated film, so I'll be doing Shunji Iwai's Hana and Alice, The Case of. Alright, so I just got done watching The Case of Hana and Alice, an animated film by Shunji Iwai. It's super late at night. Well, not crazy late, but it's late enough. I have roommates sleeping and whatnot, so I didn't want to be too loud, so I'm going to be coming out here after each movie and talking about them for a little bit. This is a really great movie. It's got an interesting, unique art style. Everything looks sort of watercolor painted, and the animation's sort of choppy a bit. Kind of reminds me of a Korean director, Yoon Sang-ho. But I think it's absolutely gorgeous. The animation changes quite a bit. It has a similar style overall, that watercolor, watermark look, but some of it's fluid and some of it's more rugged, and some of it's, yeah, the fluidness. There's some creative, like, camera stuff in there, some interesting points of view, and it's kind of hard to explain, but as it goes on, it seems like every shot really just suits the movie well. This is probably the most lighthearted Shunji Iwai. I think he is going more geared towards the anime crowd. I mean, this is an anime film, but it still has some of his signature stuff to it. The tone, it gets dark in spots. It's got that weird humor that he's known for, and yeah, I think the characters of Hana and Alice are both great. It's about this girl. I don't remember either one of their real names, but she goes by Alice, and she befriends the strange shut-in next door, Hana. And yeah, the two have a little mystery they're trying to figure out that involves a boy named Yuta from Hana's past, and I don't want to spoil it, but as it goes on, it's revealed what happens naturally, as most movies do, and it's good, it's cute, it's heartbreaking in spots, without ever being overly melodramatic, but I absolutely adored this film, and it's probably the most mainstream Shunji Iwai, but it's not like he sold out or anything. It's definitely worth rewatching, and I can't wait to visit it again. So that was The Case of Hana and Alice, and next up I am doing the bonus, which is a trilogy, and I will be watching Shinya Tsukamoto's Tetsuo trilogy, which I'm a huge fan of all of those. And quickly, I wanted to add it to earlier, I had to cut out the 3-hour film due to time constraints, and the film I picked was another Shunji Iwai film, The Bride for Van Winkle. I had no idea, but it turns out the 4-hour version's actually edited as a miniseries, so it makes me feel better just knowing that it's not technically a movie, but I kind of want to get the 3-hour director's cut now. That's his preferred version, and it's actually a movie. I don't think he ever wanted it to be a miniseries, so... but anyway, that's enough with that, and let's get on to the crazy and awe-inspiring Tetsuo trilogy. See you afterwards. Yeah, I just finished Tetsuo. It's a super quick watch. Came out in 1989, directed by Shinya Tsukamoto. He's my, well, I say that about Takeshi Kitano, but he ties with Kitano for my favorite Japanese filmmaker. Whichever movie I watch from either one of them, I tend to lean towards them when I'm watching it. I'm very passionate and love both those directors very much. But yeah, Tetsuo, the Iron Man, is about a businessman who's kind of like tired of his everyday life, and he gets attacked by a woman while waiting for a train, and he ends up at his house, and she's made out of metal, merged with metal and stuff, and he ends up shaving with his stainless steel razor, and his face gets infected, and he goes to pull on some of the infection just because it looks so weird, and he starts to slowly transform into this crazy metal human hybrid thing, and the movie's just absolutely crazy. A lot of avant-garde filmmaking, a lot of stop motion, black and white cinematography, quick editing, just crazy gonzo filmmaking at its finest. If there's going to be a million cuts in the movie, it should be done like this. Tsukamoto kind of, not pioneered, but I think he's kind of like the main guy who did shaky cam, and to this day he continues to do shaky cam, but he does it right. Shaky cam's very annoying. Even just holding my cell phone like this and jittering around, that kind of gets on my nerves somewhat. But he continues to do things artistically like that, and a lot of people say that Tetsuo is, the first one, is his best work, and I don't believe that to be true. I think it's an amazing film, but I think as he went along and matured as a person, he matured as a filmmaker and a storyteller. But yeah, I recommend this movie to everybody. It's not for everybody, but I think everybody should give it a shot and see if they can handle the insanity of Tetsuo. But yeah, moving on to Tetsuo 2, Body Hammer, and in color. Alright, so I just finished the second Tetsuo film, Tetsuo Body Hammer, made in 1992. It's also shot in color. Yeah, I had only seen the film once before this, and that was several years ago on a like a VHS rip that was on YouTube. Here in the US, Tetsuo 2 was super out of print. I think it was released through like Anime something company. But yeah, the DVD was running for like $140, so that wasn't happening. Anyway, I don't think I've watched my third Windows copy. I think I popped it in and watched some of it, just to check out the video quality. Great restoration, just like the first one. And Tetsuo 2 is more mainstream in the sense that there's more pieces given, more is revealed about the characters. And honestly, even watching them both back to back now, I'm not sure if it's a continuation of the first one. The whole our love can destroy this whole fucking planet, that line from the end of the first one. I'm not sure if that has to do with these two characters' pairings, which I don't really want to spoil. But yeah, so Shinya Tsukamoto and Tomoro Taguchi, I don't know how to say his name. Yeah, they both return as the two lead characters. Tomoro is the lead guy in the first one and this one, and Shinya Tsukamoto himself is the bad guy in both of these. And it's, yeah, like I said, this one's in color. It's a little more streamlined. It's got more of a plot. The main guy is married and has a son. The son gets abducted, and I think the wife gets abducted at some point. The son gets killed, but that's super early on, so I won't say that that's really a spoiler, and that's part of the plot anyway. And then his wife is abducted, and he just sets out revenge. Just like years ago when I saw it, I think my opinion still stands to be about the same. I think the first half's pretty weak, although it has its moments, and then the second half kicks into gear when it becomes kind of a revenge story, and it turns more into an action sort of thing. Yeah, I think it's really good. I don't think it's good as the first. Still has awesome editing. It has some cool avant-garde moments, some nice experimental and stop-motion sequences. Tsukamoto's performance is great. His haircuts are silly. But yeah, I recommend it. And I'm on to the third and final Tetsuo, which I can already tell you I do like better than 2, which I think 2 is the weakest. And that is Tetsuo 3, The Bullet Man. And I'll see you after it's over. Alright, so I just finished up the last Tetsuo movie, The Bullet Man. This is the German Blu-ray of Tetsuo, The Bullet Man, and the Iron Man, so 3 in 1. This is really hard to see because of how reflective it is, but yeah. Tetsuo 3 is the final in the trilogy, although Tsukamoto said he wants to make a 4th. But this one's about an American man who lives in Tokyo, and he lives with his wife, and his son is killed, which happens right in the very beginning, and he wants to figure out who did it and seek revenge. I really dig this movie. A lot of people don't like it. I think it might be because it's one in English, and two, well, just one because it's in English. Some of the line delivery is a little bit awkward at times, and some of the acting is not as good as it could be. But then again, some of the acting is fantastic, and some of the line delivery is amazing. And I think the lead guy is awesome. He's got a very photogenic face, which is partly why I think Tsukamoto chose him. He's very sympathetic. Well, he's easy to sympathize with. And yeah, the makeup's awesome. His transformation's cool. I think this is the most like subtle transformation. He's not big and clunky until later on in the movie. But yeah, it's cool. It's really creative. He can like take parts of himself off. Well, he doesn't do it, but I don't really want to spoil anything. But yeah, this movie's got some cool action in it. It's got some sweet gore effects. The camera and work and the editing is spot on, as always in a Tsukamoto movie. And it doesn't quite get as avant-garde as his other previous two Tetsuo entries, but there's still moments. And the sort of ambiguity that's in the first one is lesser in the second, and it's practically out of the window in this one. And it provides almost too much background, but I don't really think it's much to complain about. There's going to be people that just aren't going to like any other of the Tetsuo movies, aside from the first one. But yeah, those who are open-minded Tetsuo fans, that even makes sense to be a thing. Tetsuo 3 has a lot to offer. And it's awesome to see Shinya Tsukamoto deliver his lines in English, and he has like one-liners, well, not really one-liners, but little kind of things that most normal people wouldn't say. But getting to hear Shinya Tsukamoto say, "You ready to ride, cowboy?" It's kind of awesome with his accent and whatnot. But yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I love the makeup, the effects, the emotional parts. It's not like, you know, melodramatic or anything, but I think Tetsuo 3 is just really underrated, and most certainly needs to be sought out by Tsukamoto fans. Like I said, if you're a little open-minded, I think you're going to really enjoy it. And so yeah, that wraps up my 24-hour movie marathon, and I was going to shoot a ending clip for this, but I'm just going to end it here. I want to say thanks for those who stuck through it, and yeah, this was fun. Even with all the little delays that happened, I enjoyed myself, and it is most certainly something I won't forget. And maybe next year I'll do it again and try a Korean version or something. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all next time. Arigato.